Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty With It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, and my special guest for the evening, Pearlo, Steve, Wisdom from, sorry, I always say that weird, Steel Flyers. Pearlo, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, bro. I've been looking forward to this. This is great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I haven't had you on for a while, and last time we had Steele on as well. And I got to say, I'm excited. I like these one-on-ones, though, because I feel like, and again, I like having multiple people on, too, but when I have one-on-one, I feel like there's a lot more back and forth. You know, you can, like, stop each other and be like, well, I got this to say about your comment, right? It's a lot harder when there's more people.
Yeah.
So real quick, just want to give a shout out to the sponsor, Jim Steaks on South. Again, I say this every time. They are Flyers fans. They are awesome to us. We are still planning a live show there. There's just been difficult with scheduling, but I do have a man on the job from our team. So we will be doing that most likely after I come back from Israel. So it could be probably after or right before the beginning of the season. So be ready for that. And we'll give another shout out to Ken and the organization of Jim Steak. So make sure to check them out on South Street. Again, 3rd and South. They have awesome cheesesteaks, and they have pictures of ex-Flyers all throughout that place. So make sure you stop by inside. It's pretty awesome. All right. Thank you to them. Let's get into it. We just started talking about this off camera, and I think this is a very interesting way to start it because we're going to talk mostly Flyers here regardless, but I think this is really interesting. You were just telling me as we were starting that you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, right? And now you're kind of becoming a Vegas fan, and maybe even more, you said, than an Edmonton Oilers fan. Yeah. And I like what you said kind of right before we started, that it feels like you're almost like coming out, you know what I mean? It's like, are people going to see me differently now? Tell me about it. Tell me why this is, what's happening? Why is this happening to you?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine what it would be like actually coming out.
Yeah, so let's not conflate the two.
I don't want to discredit that, but if I ever had to come close, this would be how it would feel. Yeah, especially since I live in the city of Edmonton, and I have my own show and stuff like that. But the truth is I love this Vegas franchise and what they've done. It's more my personality. They're out of the box. They do things way different than anybody would ever think. I mean, right from the get-go, they did everything differently. And they're exciting. They're going to a game. I've never been there, but I'm going to go to Vegas to go to a game. Yep. And they're entertaining. I just love everything about them. And yeah, of course, they're players now, but of course, you're going to have to look at the long term. They're not always going to be there. But I just love the way they do things completely out of the box. And even the gold helmets.
I love their jerseys. I love their jerseys. And
I love their jerseys. The third jerseys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like way out there, right? Like it was like you see all the other third jerseys.
The opening musical show, right?
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but it's so opposite of Edmonton. Edmonton's very reserved. It's very quiet there. There's a certain type of fan there that's very knowledgeable. Don't get me wrong. Edmonton Oilers fans are very knowledgeable. It's kind of maybe a little old school, I suppose, or whatever the case may be. And it's been something that I've been grappling with for a while. And I'm finally like, you know what? I'm not grappling with it anymore. I really love Vegas. Also, I've considered moving there as a summer place. So
that's awesome.
That would really kick it in too. But yeah, it's not easy. It's actually been a battle within me because there is a lot of, being a fan of a team and it's a home, and it's not that I don't like Edmonton or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just that I really Edmonton or Vegas sort of just kind of says everything to me that a team is. And getting back to the Philadelphia Flyers, I was a Philadelphia Flyers fan long before I was an Edmonton Oilers fan. Yeah. Edmonton Oilers became that because it's my home now and stuff like that.
Sure.
But Philly has been part of me because of the Broad Street Bullies, and I just let Rick Tocchet, Brind'Amour. I still love Brind'Amour. I love Carolina is my second favorite team because of Brindy and all in the East. I just love guys like that. And that's why I'm a Philadelphia Flyers fan. We just had the best players in history, as far as I'm concerned.
And I mean, actually, you're not actually wrong about that. I mean, even you look at the broadcast team for like Philly, like they make it like Brian Boucher and Jones. It's like after like Philadelphia does have a humongous influence on the NHL throughout time. I mean, and we saw what the Broad Street Bullies did to hockey in general, right? Like, I mean, the owner was incredibly wealthy, right? Ed Snider, rest in peace. But he also influenced heavily, not just this city, but also all throughout hockey, without a doubt. And his passion,
a lot of heart.
That's what I was saying. It's for an owner that doesn't need to be that emotionally involved in his product. He was way emotionally involved, like to the point that you could say that the average fan is, right. And it showed.
I loved Schneider.
Yeah, me too, man.
I loved his reaction when Giroux got slighted for. Was it going to the Olympics? I think it was. And his reaction to that was just beautiful.
Did you know his Brindamore story, right? It's the one that Brindamore told in his retirement. He was getting retired by the Flyers. Do you know that story?
Oh, no, go ahead. So refresh my memory.
So Rod Brindamore has a memory from his rookie year about Ed Snider, and he told this publicly when he was getting retired in Philly, that his first game I think not his first game. Sorry, first season. There was like some issue with somebody on the other team. I forget the team. Sorry, forgetting my memory here. But there is a video of this on YouTube. And the Brindamore complained to the ref, and the ref was like, essentially completely disrespected Brindamore. Right, yeah. Brindamore's a kid at the time, and at the end of the game, he was sitting there all disheartened. Ed Snider came in and like asked him about it. He was like, "Oh well, the ref said this to me," and Ed Snider like stormed out of the room, kicked the door for the locker room for the refs, and looked at him. He goes, "Don't you ever talk to one of my players like that again. I'll make sure you never ref in this league again," or something like that. And just walks out. Unprofessional.
Now I remember.
Yeah. So
that's it.
Yeah, man. And like I said, reflect on the team. I do want to go real quick. Something you said about the Oilers there. It's really funny, right? Because you have maybe the most exciting player in hockey, right? And that doesn't show from the team itself. Like, you wouldn't say the Edmonton Oilers are the most exciting team. I'm not saying they're the least exciting team either, but if you had to compare them to Vegas, they're not as exciting as Vegas as a team. And I think about that, and it's like, we're so obsessed with getting that one player, right? That one player is going to change your franchise, but it's really not true, right? It's like,
really.
Yeah, you have to have a collection of guys. Like, really, like, call it a core, whatever you want, but it has to be a lot of players. Like in Vegas' case, a lot of guys with something to prove initially, right? And like that created an excitement, like the Eagles won the championship, right? They were a team that were out to prove something, right? Like everybody was against us, type of thing. Like that is what brings excitement. It can't just be one guy or two guys. It has to be a full team. And sometimes top down, sometimes you have to know that your GM will take, like when the Flyers were, I guess, more exciting. I mean, Paul Holmgren at the helm, he did make some mistakes as a GM, but he was incredibly aggressive. And you knew if there was a big player out there that he will outbid teams. Like he'll do that. He'll make the potential stupid move. Honestly, it's risky.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, and Chuck Fletcher is known to be quite the same. He's made some huge moves in the past. Yep. Like him or not like him, Parise, Sutter.
At the time, they were brilliant moves. So
yeah, it seemed like it. I'm not saying so we'll see what he does with the Flyers now. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm getting back to the Edmonton thing. It's. McDavid's awesome. I love McDavid. I don't care who he was playing for. He would be your favorite player to watch.
Easily. He's incredible.
He's insane. He'll put up 150, 160 points, probably something this year. You do have to build a team. But like I said, it's not really anything to do with the players on the team. That the reason why it's the kind of philosophy behind the team that's been going around for a long time. So that's more of it.
Do you like the direction that they're going now? I mean, I believe they have like 25 to 29 million in cap space open. Like they obviously were waiting for this off season. Like they held back. And this seems like an opportunity. Like maybe they're the ones who get Dougie Hamilton, maybe they're the ones who trade for Jack Eichel, which would be insane. If they had Eichel and McDavid, right? And Draisaitl actually. But if you look at it, they do have cap space. They have opportunity to kind of, be that exciting team. They have new Dave Tippett. Actually, I think is a great coach. What's his name? Sorry, the GM escaping me.
Kenny Holland.
Ken Holland, thank you. From Red Wings, he knows how to build a championship team. That's without a doubt. Do you feel a little more excited about it? You know what I mean? Like after that move was made, or do you feel like it wasn't much of a shift?
Oh yeah, I'm always going to be an Oilers fan too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but the excitement.
Do I feel better? Do I feel better about the direction they're going? I'll just put it this way: this is the season. Well, I'll judge it. I didn't like the tourist pickup right from I was like, what are you doing? Yeah. So I'm a little wary about like when you're picking up guys like Turris and Barry and guys like that. We'll see. Yeah, they need
Band-Aid pickups.
They need heart in that organization. Now, that being said, like you said, they were kind of Band-Aid pickups. Turris was never going to be good. I said he was likely going to be a scratch halfway through the season, and he was. Yeah. It just looked horrible in Nashville. So I don't know. We'll see with what he does now, but this is the season. I have my ideas of who I would like to see there, but I'm not the guy making the decisions. I'll leave it up to Kenny Holland. I'll see what he decides to do there. I'm not. Right now, it's hard to say what the Oilers will do because they've done a lot of head scratching things. I'm just hoping they don't do it this time. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, especially because they have an opportunity here, right? Like I was saying, like you have an insane amount of cap space. You were already a playoff team. You know what I mean? You have the best player in the world, right? At least offensively, you have the best player in the world. You have an incredible, I guess, either other center or call whatever you want. Draisaitl is also exceptional. It's like it's call it Crosby Malkin type of duo. Whatever you want. And if they can build the right pieces around it, I mean, there's no reason that they can't be more competitive than they are now. They have the right coach, in my opinion, in there, at least a good enough coach that can play team defense. So the pieces are there. All right.
Yeah, we'll see how they do. I think it's better off than they were before, certainly with Torelli and all of that.
Well, okay, actually, I love that we're just talking about the Oilers, but I do want to talk about this. Torelli, again, he's not a stupid man, okay? But he made trades that were impatient, like trading for Larson and trading Hall. Hall is in his prime at the time as well. Didn't really make sense. Like it didn't really make your team better. It was a desperation move. He made a bunch of them. And that's what I was saying. Ken Holland was like, hey, I know my team I could have gone out and got another player and maybe would have made another round, but he wasn't looking at his team like this is a championship team. He's like, no, this is a team in progress. I have a window next year. I have all of this. And this is what I think Chuck Fletcher is doing. I have all this chaos to work around because whenever your other team is scrambling, I have nothing to scramble about. That means that puts me in a position of power, right? From a negotiation standpoint, I need nothing. I have plenty of money and like everything I can get, I can either go UFA or I can trade you young guys for vets. Like if I really need to do that, he's just in a position where like you don't have any leverage over him really. And I feel like that's the best position I've seen them in for a while. And they don't have a coach that they can point out, this guy's a rookie, you're not good enough. Like they have the right pieces in place to turn things around. Like I truly believe that. I do think this is their off season.
I think they can, yeah. Let's get into some Philly now.
Yeah, I know. Oh, Flyers fans are like, all right, we heard enough. All right.
Yeah.
let's get into it. There is a good amount to talk about. And I want to start off with we're just talking about off-season stuff. So let's continue with that. And let's talk about the Flyers position. Now, there's a bunch of names going around. Matthew Dumba has been a big name coming around of late. He obviously has connections to Chuck Fletcher back in the day. A very good top four, especially offensively. Very good defenseman. Definitely can be a top three on your team, maybe a top pairing. He's still relatively young. So I would say he has top pairing potential as well. I would say maybe even if he is in the right position. We have Seth Jones, which is out there, which is already a top pairing guy. Will continue to get better, and I would say is a legitimate number one on most teams, especially as he's evolving. He's still pretty young. We have Dougie Hamilton out there, who's in his prime right now, who I would not say is a number one and will demand number one money. I think he is a complimentary top two, which is still very good. I don't think it's necessarily a knock on him. I just don't think his personality is the type of guy that's going to lead a locker room, from what I understand, which is why he keeps moving around. I think those were the expectations of him, and he doesn't meet that. But talent-wise, he probably does. And then, we have, Jack Eichel's out there. That's obviously a crazy situation, which quite frankly, I don't know if it's going to move as fast as the media says. Like, I don't really know why Buffalo needs to rush. I think they should play it the way Joe Sakic played it with Duchesne, where he's like, I'm going to wait until the right pick off comes my way. We have him locked down. I'll sit him if I have to. You guys will get desperate and you'll want Jack Eichel, like, regardless. He's not, you know what I mean? His value is not going to drop that much. And then OEL, and his name has come up of late, but Jamie Baskow and we've been talking about this for a while. Arizona has no money. They're pretty broke. He has a humongous contract. They need a first-round pick this year. The Flyers have a first-round pick that they don't need. There's also the case where they have a guy like Jake Voracek who they could potentially move. The ages are about similar. Or JVR. Could you swap a JVR and a first for OEL, or Jake Voracek for OEL? Like, in some kind of swap there, maybe additional players involved as well. But you get that top defender who's a captain, who's shown he can play the defensive way and a high offensive game. Plus, he's a little older. He's 29. Something the Flyers need, just some veterancy. But those are some of the names that are going around. Let's talk about them, and then let's talk about other guys. What do you think about the list of players I just brought up? Who of that list intrigues you the most? And do you think any of that is realistic, even of those top names?
Very interesting. Right off the top, I like the idea of Dumba.
Yeah.
First of all, because, like I said, as long as he's been, if he has a relationship with Chuck Fletcher and they got along really well, which I can't see why they wouldn't, because Chuck Fletcher supported him a lot when a lot of people didn't. Yep. So I really like Dumba of this group for several reasons, not necessarily because one is more talented than the other, but Minnesota is also in a situation where either they got to protect 4 defensemen and protect him, which is going to leave some forwards exposed for the expansion draft, or they protect 3 and trade Dumba, which takes their leverage away a little bit. Yep. So I think that he could get he would be the best value play. He's priced in at $6 million for the next 2 years with a moderate no trade clause, which is great for the next 2 years, and then we can deal with the rest. It's right about the time that the caps start going up.
Yep.
So we can work out a deal with him if he works, assuming he works out, which I am one of the few people that is a big Dumba supporter. I really like his game. I think his game could still progress more.
Mm-hmm. He's only 26.
He's only 26 years old. He hasn't even hit his prime yet.
I agree.
He defensively, he's a little shaky, but not bad considering the offense he brings. And his offense has been going down as he's tried to improve his defense. So he's worked out a balance. He's working out the balance there, which every defenseman, unless you're an elite defenseman, has to do. So I like Dumba there. I think we can get him for a fairly decent price and not give up our first.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that would have to be pre-expansion, you're saying?
Yes, we trade for him right away, pre-expansion. And if we work out a way to fit in the cap space, but that's going to be the issue for all of these players, right? Sure. Well, that's really what it comes down to, is what are we going to be able to move out to make something like this fit, or what are we going to be able to give back to be able to make something like this fit as well. Yeah. So considering the fact that Gostisbehere had a much better season kind of down the road, I kind of liked what he was doing there. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could include him to even up the money, and it's assuming that that they could expose him and he won't be selected. Yeah. They think he's not going to be selected. So there's a lot of ifs there. But as a whole, I think for not having to giving up the least and getting the best value, I think Dumba would be the best of the choices.
Here's the issue I see though, is how do you deal with expansion? Because the Flyers aren't going to expose Phil Myers, they're not going to expose Travis Sanheim, and they're not going to expose Provorov. And I don't think that they're going to go to the 4 defensive protection list, which I think is the issue that Chuck Fletcher finds himself in, and not just with Dumba. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Do you think in that case, do you move on from do you trade Phil Myers potentially? Do you trade, because I don't see Dumba as being a replacement for Travis Sanheim necessarily, right? Because Sanheim, I would say, is more of a two-way guy than Dumba is, and he's got bigger size, even though he doesn't use it that great at this point. But you know what I mean? You see what like the scenario I'm talking in? Like that's where I see a guy like Seth Jones. And again, I know he wants to test the market, so this might be completely bunk. But I was like, if I'm gonna move Myers or Sanheim, it's for a guy like Jones, who I'm like, okay, but I protect Jones, right? Like I lose one of my top 3 guys that I have to protect, but at least I protect Jones, right? Because they can't go to a 4-4. They expose too many forwards and they lose anyway. And that's where I feel like the conundrum is, because you're right about the value. Is pre-expansion, Dumba's value in trade is less. After expansion, his price would go up, I would assume.
Yeah, his price would go up because that means that they would have protected him. Because he's definitely going to be taken if they expose him. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you bring up a good point though. Yeah, that is a little difficult. I don't know what the value for a Myers would be out there, but and is sort of defeating the purpose for depth at the same time.
Yep.
So you bring up a good point there. Now I'll move on to Jones, and I'll keep on thinking about that as you tell me. I don't mind Jones, but I don't want to give up too much for him. And I know you've heard all of these analytics things, and analytics have a place. And what a lot of the analytics people are saying have some truth to it. Eye test to me is the way I go first, and usually analytics lines up to it quite a bit, especially certain ones. That's how I really judge where the best analytics are. Because let's face it, analytics people argue like religious people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they argue a lot over everything. Jones has had problems in Columbus the last 2 years. There's no doubt about it. He's been hesitant in his own zone. He has had trouble knowing when he's going to skate it out or when he's going to pass it. All of those things like that. There has been difficulties. You can chalk that up to the fact that it's just been difficult in Columbus. You know, he obviously doesn't want to be there because he says he's going to test the market, and he didn't even really want to talk to them about a contract. So all of those things come into play. Now, pre that, though, Jones was a beast, right?
Yeah.
So what is the reason, though? You know, is he not progressing well? I'd like to know a lot more about kind of what the reasons are. But because he's had trouble the last 2 years, you got to use that as some leverage to not give up too much for him.
100%.
However, I think somebody's going to forget all that and take a gamble. And then where are we on that?
To be honest with you, that's where I was like, people are like throwing out these crazy amounts for him. I'm like, wait a second. I was like, you're telling me, and this is where I think a lot of people lose the issue, is negotiation is about leverage. It's a negotiation. This isn't like, oh, you have the better player, so let me give you everything I have so I can get what I think is great off your team. I'm looking at this guy as, okay, he's unhappy there. You're not keeping him, right? Just like Brandon Saad was traded for Panarin, obviously not an equal trade, right? Chicago lost that trade in value without a doubt, right? Yeah. Panarin was obviously the better player, but they don't have leverage. So in the same position now with Seth Jones, I'm going, okay, if you're going to lose Seth Jones anyway, then the most I'm giving you is Travis Sanheim, and only Travis Sanheim. And I think that's a lot, to be honest with you. And I'm giving you Phil Myers plus either a prospect or a pick, because I know that I'm giving you a top end young player, and you're not getting better than that on the open market because you have no leverage. You either let this guy go for nothing, or you get a defenseman who can play in your top 3 for the future. Otherwise, he walks away from you anyway. And I think, and like, yeah, you can pick apart Jones's game, but he's also like Dumba, right? He's got a higher ceiling, right? He's about 25, 26. So it's like, he's another guy who's probably going to improve over time. But I agree with you. I mean, it's like, they don't have the leverage. So like in my mind, I was like, people were talking about Sanheim, Konechny in a first. I'm like, go F yourself. I was like, you're nuts. I was like, if I have position over a team, I'm not throwing everything at you. Like, even the Jack Eichel trade. And I'll say this, they have more leverage because he's locked up long-term. So he can't go anywhere anyway. But they're not getting what they think they're going to get unless you get desperate, right? You have to act desperate. At least in Eichel's thing, they have him locked up long-term. They can just sit on him. But with Jones, they can't sit on him. The longer they wait, the worse it's going to be for them, right? So like they'll almost take what they can get as long as it's the best package available. Maybe it's not Phil Myers and a pick, maybe they want Travis Sanheim, but if you can walk away with Travis Sanheim after losing Seth Jones, it's a lot better than being like, well, I don't get a guy who can play my top 3 even. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and you know what? You bring up some really good points there. Also, Seth Jones has so much leverage as to where he goes here because
that's also a problem.
Anybody's that, well, it's sort of a risk, but you're gonna Columbus has got to let you talk to his agent
to some degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
In which case, this gives Seth Jones a lot of leverage and not the team. Because if I'm a player, why do I want to give the team I'm going to give up a lot, right?
Wow, what a great point. I love that point, actually.
Yeah, like I don't want you want them to benefit from the trade, not the other way around, because you're leaving, right? So he's going to have certain teams that he wants to go to, and if the Columbus is going to allow you to negotiate with him, which may be it's a tough spot for them. They can say no. They can say no. You can't negotiate, and then everybody's like, "Well, we're only paying for 1 year, so you're only getting this."
Yeah.
Right. Or they can say, "Yes, you can negotiate," and then they can say, "Because we let you negotiate in good faith, let's work out a deal that makes sense."
Yeah.
But then Jones can easily say, "I'm not going to sign with them either."
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I would hope that he doesn't, right? Because I just think in good faith, you don't want to do that if you're going to accept that kind of trade. I do suspect teams with a player like that, you're not trading for him unless you're locking him up, right? But but that does bring in the case with Phil Myers, right? Travis Sanheim is not locked up long term. Even if he's locked up for a year, right, or 2 years, Columbus again risks losing him. A guy like Phil Myers is locked up real cheap. And, you throw in that number 13 pick, which is a pretty high draft pick, right? So you have a number 13 pick plus Phil Myers, and it's a guarantee, right? You're like, I got a guy who's going to play my top 4. He's also a righty, big defenseman, right? He brings some of the aspects that Seth Jones does, and we get to bring in another first-round pick player to compensate for that. Maybe it'll end up being a high-end goal scorer, right? Just something to get our fans excited, and we don't lose out, right? Like, yeah, we lose Seth Jones, but they kind of won that trade anyway to begin with, right? With the initial trade to bring him over. So it's like they have to kind of balance that through. I think, honestly, I don't think it's possible, but if I was Columbus, I'd be like, hey, I'll trade you Seth Jones for Jack Eichel. You know what I mean? Like, if I was them, I would try to do that.
I think they'll try to offer that, but I don't think Buffalo would be smart to take it because I think Eichel's going to get a boatload regardless of the situation.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
I think so too.
But with Seth Jones, what I mean by he can say, I'm not going to sign with that team, meaning he's got a team in mind he wants to sign with. So all the other teams, he's going to say, I'm not going to sign with them.
Sure.
Which takes the leverage away from Columbus because they really can only trade him to the one that's going to sign with them, in which case, say it was the Philadelphia Flyers, right?
Yeah.
They work out a deal. It's going to be $8-9 million or whatever it is going to be for Seth Jones as soon as his contract's over. They work out a deal like that. And then we say, okay, well, you're not trading him anywhere else. So we'll go with the other two, whatever the other teams are offering. You can figure out in your head, they're only going to give you this much because it's for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you a little more than that and we'll call it even. And that, Myers are first or something like that, maybe exactly right around the ballpark of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. It might be in that ballpark.
Yeah.
In which case it's not terrible. It's not terrible. I think it would be even less though for Dumba.
Yeah. Oh, I think you could get Dumba for just the first round pick, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think they'd be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if you offered up that right now, I think they'd be all over it.
Yeah, the problem is the expansion though, right? Because that's what I said is like, if you're going to do that, you might be moving a defenseman as well.
If we're going to lose Myers, then
they lose him in a heartbeat, right? Like without a doubt.
That's not really the greatest.
Exactly.
Depending on what you can get back for him.
Well, that's why I go for the bigger name, right? That's why I would go for Jones, right? Yeah. If that scenario exists. Again, this is all
we're speculating, and that's what we do. But even then, I'm not sure if I got to lose Myers at the same time. I'm going to think about it because I'm giving up quite a bit. I really like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I really like that first.
I completely agree with what you're saying. And I like your sensibility on this because I completely agree with you. And one thing I want to point at to people, and I think people forget this stuff. Like, remember the Mark Stone trade? They got Eric Brandstrom for him. right?
Mm-hmm.
And they only got him. And this is don't get me wrong, a high-end prospect, but they got one.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Did they get a first out of that too? Is that it?
I thought it was just Eric Branstrom. Let me double check because maybe I'm wrong.
I think they got a little more than that, but
all right,
maybe
let me double check because then I make myself look stupid.
No, you won't.
Sometimes I do. They got Lindbergh too.
Lindbergh. Wow, that's not much. I thought they got more than that, but that's still pretty good. That's still.
They did get a second. They get a second round pick as well. So let's say that. But again, this is Mark Stone is an exceptional player, right? Like
they robbed him
with a great reputation, leadership, but they didn't have leverage to keep him, right? He wanted out, right? And when the guy wants out, you're not getting top dollar, right? You have to be really patient otherwise, which they don't have that luxury really. Maybe they do. They have a good GM. Don't get me wrong. Columbus has a good GM, but they don't have a lot of leverage here. It's not like the Joe Sakic scenario, right? And Joe Sakic got way too much for Duchesne, right? Like he got ridiculous amount. Like that was not supposed to happen. And I don't think teams are really jumping to be put in that position again. It's funny. Ottawa Center is involved in that, but you don't want to find yourself in that position. And yes, the Flyers struggled this year, but it doesn't mean that it's like blow your team up and risk it all, because there's a lot of parity here and a lot can change within a year. And you don't have to sell the bank to improve your team. You can go out and get something more reasonable, just like Matt Niskanen, and improve your team, right? Or Matthew Dumba. You know what I mean? You don't have to go crazy.
Yeah, and I think there's other guys that they could look at that you could get for really cheap as well. Guys that I really like Jolmerson out of Arizona. I don't think he's going to cost you that much. I'd love to have him on my team. Even Goligoski in Arizona.
He's a UFA.
Yeah, he's a UFA.
Whether he makes it or not, we'll see. But
we don't know. We're speculating whether he'd want to go to Philadelphia and all that stuff like that.
Yes,
but there's a lot of guys on the free agent market that I think you can pluck up for pretty cheap, and out there as well. So yeah. So anyways, like you were saying about blowing it all up with Philadelphia and all that. I mean, you know what? I was pretty emotional about what happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But thinking afterwards and listening to people and stuff like that, there are some things we do have to take into consideration with Philly in the season that they had. For one thing, Hayes was obviously injured.
Yep.
So he's going to come back healthy. We were all wondering what's wrong with Hayes. Nobody's saying anything about it because they're not going to tell you anything about injuries and the fact that he's playing injured and all of those sort of things like that. And that's huge. He was huge for us.
Yep.
We had Oscar Lindblom, who just came off of cancer, and he's playing a full season in a condensed season
with no practice, no days off. That's the same thing I say about Nolan Patrick, who's even younger. He's the youngest almost one of the youngest on the team, missing a year and a half.
Yeah, I think.
How do you expect him to catch up?
I think you got to give him one more year. I think you have no choice. Give him a 1-year contract and let him go. I think this team will be, I think they just ran into a whole lot of unfortunate incidences. Unfortunately, I don't like to use it as excuses, and I don't think they used it as an excuse during the season. But
let's think of it this way, though. I don't even think of it as an excuse. It's they fell short. They came up with, but the better teams are able to deal with the stuff that comes their way. The reality is that this is a very young defense, right? They didn't have Matt Niskanen back there who could do it all. It was all Justin Braun, and God bless Justin Braun. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. He's a good defenseman. He's a good defensive defenseman. He can't go out there and play with Ivan Provorov. Niskanen could do that. He could say it and then do it. Braun was playing out of position all year. It's like you need that guy who can step in there and play those minutes as well. And they didn't have that. They didn't have they obviously didn't have the practices. They got hit with COVID. They just didn't recover. They need more maturity. And even the bottom six of the lineup, outside of Scott Lawton, Raffle was out all year. It was a bunch of kids on the fourth line. How are they going to grind a team down? They really weren't. They weren't doing that. You need your fourth line to do that, right? And then
if they made the playoffs, they would have been in trouble anyways.
Physically, you saw them getting pushed around. Even Sanheim and Myers, who are 6'3" and 6'5", respectively, right? These guys were getting pushed around physically, and that's not supposed to happen. They didn't get pushed around like that the year before. They're not the big. I mean, Myers is definitely stronger than Sanheim, but they were getting literally out muscled everywhere. And I do ask myself why. My thing, in my opinion, just weren't ready conditioning wise. Like they are more than the average person, obviously, but we're talking about the NHL here, and I think other teams were just more prepared. It's not an excuse; it's a knock on them, where it's like, hey guys, you didn't have the maturity level to be prepared for this. Like you got hit and you got knocked down, and the guys who were able to get back up, quite frankly, were veterans. JVR. Outside of Farabee, right? It was veterans. JVR, Giroux, Couturier, even Voracek, finished highest on team in points. We know about Hayes, obviously, with the injury, but it's like everybody else but Farabee, who, quite frankly, in my opinion, is a future captain of this team potentially. The maturity level just wasn't there to carry, to give these guys to do the extra, do the 110%, 120% effort. And that's kind of what I saw, at least. And, you're an adult, right? Like when I see these guys, I see kids still. I mean, I'm only 34, but I see young men who, when I was their age, I was pretty lazy. I would make excuses all the time. So even NHL athletes, I could see maybe 5% of that. Maybe they gave 95% instead of 100. Like that type of thing.
If you look at the younger teams in the league, they struggled because I don't think people really appreciate. First of all, the condensed schedule. There was a lot of 5 games in 8 nights and all of these things. Like these are so. I don't know if they weren't really well conditioned for playing an 82 game season and normal thing, but this was taking it to a whole nother level.
Nailed it.
And it's hard to be prepared for something like that and to gut it out and all of those things like that. Vancouver had a really good team. They had a terrible first their schedule in the beginning of the year was awful.
And they got hit with COVID.
And they got hit by COVID. But
true.
The schedule to begin with, these young kids were like, oh my gosh, I didn't see. People said it was going to be tough, but it didn't realize it was going to be this tough.
Yep.
And for some reason, older players, they've been around long enough to just dig deeper to get and know how to pace themselves.
Yeah. No.
Sometimes it's just pacing yourself and being in the league long enough to know where you gotta pace yourself in your time when you're off the ice and how you're taking the time away from the game for a while. All of this stuff like that is what veterans teach these young guys what to do. And in this specific type of season like this, it wasn't just Philadelphia. It was a lot of teams that had young players and especially young teams that I had Vancouver making the playoffs before. I never thought about it, to tell you the honest truth. And then as the season's going on, I'm like, I never thought about that. This is going to be
because it's all new. Well, exactly. And you didn't even fully, like, your expectations and mine too weren't to this level. Like, I didn't know what to expect. And that's when you saw them kind of like have trouble with the adjustment, right? And you saw early signs of that with Philadelphia in the playoffs last year, right? The younger guys definitely struggled coming back, like Travis Konechny. He definitely struggled, and he still kind of struggled this year, even though he did improve over time. It's like these are the lessons learned that really happened throughout the season. And like Carter Hart, he's somebody who relied on practice, right? And recover with with his mind. He didn't get that luxury. And you saw the coaching staff, maybe they didn't say it publicly, but they were showing it publicly. Like putting Patrick and Lindblom on the fourth line, pretty much the whole end of the season. That isn't a reflection of, these guys don't have the talent. Both of these guys were top 6 forwards, prior to this. That is them going, we got to shelter them. Like all of a sudden, like they don't have the energy. If you look at Nolan Patrick, people were jumping on him, be like, he doesn't want to be here. He's lazy. It's like, no, he was cutting all his shifts short because he could barely finish each shift. He missed a year and a half. He didn't have the, like I tell people all the time, like I run 3 to 7 miles, 3 to 8 miles like a day at this point. It takes a lot out of you, and it is so hard to even get your endurance up. You know what I mean? And I'm not a professional athlete with their knowledge and their physical abilities. It's like for him to get back to where he needs to be, and same with Lindblom, it is going to take longer than you like.
It was a terrible season for them to have to go through in this situation. No doubt.
Just made it even worse.
I'm a gym guy. Okay. With COVID, I wasn't able to go to the gym. I was working out at home. I can assure you my workouts at home are nowhere near what they are.
As good as the gym.
Exactly. I just went to the gym for 3 days. I feel like I'm going to die, dude. Okay. And I thought I was taking it easy. So, yeah.
It's like getting back on the ice, to your point, right? From working at home to getting on the ice.
Yeah, exactly. And also there's several aspects of this that came up in my mind as I was trying to recreate it. Young players also feed off veterans a lot. And guess what? During a lot of the COVID, they had to be stuck in their room.
Great point.
So they're not even able to talk to other veterans. They're missing home, and all of these things that crop up as a young player, things that are going on, like afraid. They want to talk about them. You know what? I thought I was physically ready, but I'm really not. And you get back on the ice and you kind of have this fear about, oh, am I going to be able to make it? And you only got the dressing room to really, and if you played before, the dressing room is not a place where you're going to have, sit down emotional conversations with people. No. So maybe you call them on the phone, but a lot of young players don't go that way. It's the veteran that goes that way.
That does that. Yes.
It's the veteran that goes that way and says, "Hey, open up, buddy. Let's talk this through." Yeah. The young player's trying to act like he's got it all figured out, right? Everything like that. Posturing, trying to make himself. He doesn't want to admit that he needs help.
Yeah, so man.
That's as I looked at it as the season went on, I'm like, I was way too hard on Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I was.
Yeah, but it's I see, like, people think I defend them, and I don't think that, like, they deserve the criticism. I definitely think they deserve the criticism, and they need to hear it so they prepare better in the future. So they know your skill is not going to win you hockey. Like, look at Montreal. Like, they're not, and not that they don't have talent. Don't get me wrong, and they made good additions. Like, but they're not the most talented team, and look what they're doing, right? That is work ethic. That is preparation. Like, that is a commitment, right? That's really what that defining line is, because there's enough talent on majority of teams in the league to create havoc. So it's like, you can't just go into it and be like, oh, we're a talented team, we're going to win. It's like, it's just not going to happen. It's just, look at Buffalo. They on paper vastly improved in the offseason, did not matter. You know what I mean? Adding Eric Stahl, who's right now in the Final Four, and adding Taylor Hall, those were awesome additions. And yet, look at the team. Like, it was just an overall team preparation wasn't there. The commitment, the locker room wasn't there. The team just had maybe their worst season, right? It's like, it really matters.
Well, Montreal, the interesting thing with Montreal was when they fired Julian, Weber, who never comes out and talks in the media about anything that happens internally ever. Like, he's an awesome great leader. He's an awesome leader, amazing.
I love him.
And he comes out and says there was problems in the room. So
there you go.
There was problems in the room, right? Yeah. But you have, Bergevin realizes this, changes the coach, and goes that direction. Now, I don't think there was problems in the room in Philadelphia necessarily.
There wasn't even a room, probably, to some degree.
What's that?
I said there wasn't even much of a room, probably, in Philadelphia,
Yeah. But there is something that I'm sure they look back on it and think they could have been more proactive about, like what we're talking about
I love what you're saying. Proactive,
not having a voice, all of those things like that. Get the veterans to call these guys. Maybe they were, a little more. Force them to open up and talk a lot and stuff like that. I could even be wrong about this, but I get the impression by listening to some of the way things are going and they're talking that they look at themselves and go, you know what, there's some things here we didn't take into consideration. Yep. However, we can learn from that in an 82 game schedule now.
100%.
Because now you realize the importance of a lot of these things that maybe we didn't realize before. I think Vancouver Canucks are going to look at that. Yeah. I think, talk about the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers, very young team. I'm probably being too hard on them.
Sure.
Same sort of thing. It was a very difficult season, and veterans were very important. And Montreal did have some killer veterans in Perry and the Weber and Edmondson and all of these guys.
Yeah, man.
Really floored it there in Montreal. Price.
Well said. Yeah, no, well said. And I actually said this with Steve Cornianos, the draft analyst, in the previous episode. It's like one of my least favorite media diatribe is this is a young man's game. I just keep saying, show me a young team that's winning a championship. It's not a young man's game. That's because of the salary cap. It's still a veteran man's game. It's an adult game. Like, the better you are mentally, the more physically fit you are, more physically prepared you are, that's who wins games. Like, and it's without a doubt. And young guys are not there. Yeah, and
physically
young guys and young guys typically are not there. Understandably so. It takes time.
Yeah.
And I know. I mean, like I said, I was a screw up pretty much my whole life. All right.
Oh yeah.
So let's go into the next topic here, and we'll kind of combine these two together. So we have a list of RFAs out there for the Flyers. Obviously Sanheim, Patrick are two of the big ones. There's a good amount of free agency in general issues, right? Like Bunneman's an RFA, David Kosh is an RFA, but obviously, I don't know. I think they might have signed him. I forget. I think he might be locked up, but I know he's going overseas. But like a lot of like minor guys that they need to sign. But obviously at the NHL level, like Carter Hart's an RFA. That's a huge one. But it's really Carter Hart, Nolan, and then Travis Sanheim. I think all those guys will be taken care of. And I think there's a good chance that even Sam Morin is going to come back. Even though people don't believe that. We do have Alex Lyon. I think he's probably going to be touring the NHL looking for a job. And I think Brian Elliott, the good chance the Flyers are going to walk away from him. Yeah. But we also have expansion at the same time, right? And there is kind of a pickings of players here to go through. I do think, that teams have some options. At this point, I actually think Gostisbehere might be the most likely to get taken. But I want to see, what do you think about expansion? Do you see any risk with the RFAs as well?
Okay. Well, basically Sanheim I'm pretty sure he doesn't have
arbitration
rights.
I'm pretty sure he does not.
He does not. So
I don't think so. Not yet.
In the place that we're in right now, it'd be nice to lock him up large right now. It really would be nice.
He is arbitration eligible.
Oh no, he is arbitration.
At least according to Cap Friendly, he is.
Yeah. He's gonna be the most important one. I would really be nice if we could get him wrapped up in somewhere in the 5 million mark for a long time.
So 5 at 5 type of
5
thing.
at 5 or something like that. Yeah, that'd be nice because I think I think he would outplay that 5 million easy.
100% agree.
So something in that nature, something in that area would be good. I really like Sanheim.
Yeah,
I hear a lot of people trading him. I really wouldn't want it.
Again, only trade him for Seth Jones.
It would have to be something very, very good.
Yeah.
But as far as who they may take now, okay, I'm going to play. If I'm Seattle, if I'm Francis in Seattle, I'm looking at this going, yeah, I'm pretty sure they want us to take Gostisbehere.
Yep.
No.
Potentially.
$4.5 million for $4.5 million. $4.5 million for how Gostisbehere played in the second half is actually not bad.
Right.
But it's also, if I'm Seattle, I'm looking not so much at whether the player is worth $4.5 million, but how much it's worth the team to lose the $4.5 million.
Okay. Sure.
So I'm probably going to say I'm not touching Gostisbehere unless you give me something. It may not be much. It may be a third or something like that.
Okay.
But I'm looking to bring draft picks in like crazy. So if not, I'll go with were we protecting Kubel? Obey Kubel?
I don't think so. I think he would be exposed.
So that would be my guy if I was Seattle.
I think you're onto something, right? It's a guy who hasn't had an opportunity. He's about 25. If you look at Vegas, right, about 25 years old, is playing a lower level, within the lineup, and could probably be elevated in a role. Definitely has an NHL upside. Can be traded for picks. And let me ask you this: so you do think there's a case where I think Van Riemsdyk and Voracek will both be exposed? We talked about that. Money exposed. I think Hayes would be exposed too if we could. He just has the no movement clause, so they can't expose him. But I think for sure Van Riemsdyk and Voracek. Do you think there's any chance either one of those guys get taken? And I will say this caveat about JVR is that his second year of his remaining 2 years is only $5 million in actual dollar value, even though it's a $7 million cap hit. So it helps them get to that floor, which I don't know if is a huge problem. But again, it's a lot easier to move that contract in the end as well, or a buyout if they really need to do that.
Yeah, like I said, if I'm Seattle, I'd consider Van Riemsdyk, but that's going to cost you, and that's going to cost you a pretty penny too. It's going to hurt because I have no reason to take him. Like, there's no point for me to take him. I'm not. I don't think Seattle's looking to do a Vegas here. I think they're looking to acquire as many picks as possible and build a dynasty.
Yeah.
If they're getting Ron Francis as their general manager, I find it highly unlikely he's going to be going outside of the box that way. That's just not what Ron Francis has ever been in his life. So
right.
I don't think he's going to be that now. So I think it would cost us to do that. What a price? I think it would be steep. I think they'll be asking for firsts and
I don't think we're doing that.
We're certainly not giving this first. If we think we're going to be really good, you want to get rid of the next one. You got to remember, this is $7 million cap room off the books. Yeah. What can we do with that right now?
Well,
right?
No, I would agree with that. But don't you think there's a case where if you look at Fletcher's previous position, he did that with Minnesota, did not pay off for him, right? Like he did that, be like, oh, don't take this player. Where like I'd really be like, okay, if you want any of these guys, like you can take whoever you want that's expensive, right? Ghost, JVR, Voracek, you can take any of these guys. We win because we save cap space. But if we lose Aube-Kubel, we don't lose. I mean, not that I want to throw him away, but I mean, we have Wade Allison immediately takes, I would even argue he already did. He immediately takes that role. We can sign another free agent to do that. We have a guy like Morgan Frost who hasn't had a chance in the lineup, who was injured last year, right? We have other young guys. We have Jackson Cates we just signed, right? We have other guys who could potentially play this role, right? Carson Twarynski, who might not even get re-signed potentially, right? But then we have Connor Bunnaman. It's like, does that even hurt the Flyers? I feel like in that case, that's a win for Philly as well, because then if we need to move picks to trade assets, like we can do kind of the more creative stuff, but we have to take on salary anyway, right? Like if you look at OEL's contract, like I mentioned him earlier, I think he has like 6 years left at over $8 million. And a team like Arizona, they don't have money. Like they're literally broke. Like they're in the red, especially after this past year. They don't make money. So in their case, like if they get a guy like JVR and that first, right? That first from this year, even maybe, right? 13 in JVR for OEL. I mean, they save a bunch of money in the long term, especially in the second year, right? They're only getting a $5 million player. It adds to their offense. He's definitely a veteran leader. And they get a young player, potentially, draft a defenseman in a defensive heavy draft that, probably won't replace OEL, but at least can be like another guy who can maybe be a top 4 defenseman. And that's where I think the Flyers can get creative. It's like, we're not really backed up against in a corner yet, but it's only because we have an abundance of assets, to your point, like picks, young guys. Like we can get ourselves out of a jam right now. If we had an empty pool and no prospects, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Like, you know what I mean? No picks and prospects, we'd be in trouble. But because we have these assets, the Jay O'Briens, the Bobby Brinks, not that I think we want to move these guys, but because we have such a deep prospect pool and picks, I think it's like, if we have to bail ourselves out of money, I think we can still get it done to some degree. Do you think there's any, do you agree with anything I'm saying there? Do you think it's...
Well, I understand. It's Nicholas. I mean, but it's not going to kill us to lose Aube-Kubel or Gosh to Spear if they decide to go that way. Even if we gave up, looking at it, even if I gave up a third,
that wouldn't kill us.
Take Shane Gosh to Spear. That takes $4.5 million for the next 2 years. That's reasonable.
I would agree with you. That's reasonable.
Then that takes $4.5 million out the next 2 years, and we can do something like that. I'm just saying that, like with James Van Riemsdyk, our first next year, I'd be like, call us. I'll call you back. I'll see what I can get for $7 million now on $7 million right now. And, maybe we'll get back to you, because, but maybe we go like, it's not really worth it because we're going to get a Palmieri or something like that. Yeah. Right.
And so to your point to that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but to that call out line or to callback line, the Flyers were having heavy talks with Arizona during the season. Like they were scouting them heavily. Brent Flair was over there scouting the team. So there was definitely conversations, and Fletcher added to that. They're like, oh, we know what teams want from us and what we want from them. Yeah. He made that very clear. So there is some kind of like, oh, I'll call you later already, I would say.
With their Arizona.
Potentially, maybe even more other teams.
There's another guy that you might be able to, like you said, if it's just about the money. I have a feeling that, Armstrong is one heck of a general manager. He was with, he wasn't the general manager of the St. Louis Blues, but he helped build that franchise quite a bit. So it's going to be very interesting what he does with that. I'm not sure it's totally about the money, because that team's not going to survive if they don't put a team on the ice either.
That's true.
I mean, they have to put a team on the ice there, or they are already dead in the water. Maybe they already know they're dead in the water. Those are the few things that we have to look at. If they already know they're dead in the water, you're right. We could trade JVR and get him as well, because they don't care what is on the ice right now. They're just worried about going to the next place. So.
Well, I actually thought even more than JVR, like Gostisbehere, right? Like trade Gostisbehere in that 13 pick, right? And then they get another defenseman who can play in their top four. Definitely will fill in that power play role. He is a bigger name. Like if you ask people know Shane Gostisbehere, so at least they can, because it's all about what you can sell as well, right? Like like I remember when the Flyers traded Eric Lindros, like that was so hard to trade him. Because you're losing that trade. I mean, you're going to lose that trade. I mean, we got Jan Hlavik, who most people don't even remember, who had a really good rookie year. They got Kim Janssen, who ended up being the best player from that draft, and the only guy who really played with the team. He was a number 4 defenseman. And then you got Pavel Brendel, and I think there was a pick involved there too. But you got Pavel Brendel, who was a high-end first-round pick who did nothing at the NHL level.
He was just lazy.
Yeah, exactly. But you could, I do agree with that. But you could sell that to the fans. So like, oh, we got this young prospect, right? It's almost like when we traded Richards and Carter, right? We got Sean Couturier. We got Brayden Schenn. We didn't know Wayne Simmons was going to be as good as he was. But like, we got something to sell to the fans. Jake Voracek, there was promise there. So I feel like that's what you have to sell in a trade like that too, for a guy like OEL. Like it has to be goes to first and maybe another prospect as well. Maybe a guy like Zamula has to move, unfortunately.
Yeah. The thing about OEL is that he needs a spark, because I think he's just got a little too comfortable in Arizona. He's another one like Jones that has kind of looked out of sorts the last maybe 2 years, and especially this last year, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
But he's such a smooth skater. I'm sure that if you put him in a better situation, he's just such a great skater.
Yeah.
And wouldn't we love to have a guy that can skate the puck out like that again? Oh my gosh.
And not just that, he's got the veteran presence. You know what I mean? He's been a captain over there. Like he's a guy who can take that emotional pressure, just like Niskanen, off of Provorov and Sanheim. He can go talk to the media. You know what I mean? Like you've done that. Like let him do it, and let's not throw that on the guys who are 23, 24 years old, who are just trying to not make mistakes at this point, you know, on a daily basis, and don't know how to handle those mistakes that they make, where they can just brush it off, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
You see Montreal in the playoffs right now? Who's there all the time? Perry.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He's a guy talking to the media every single time. There's no better media guy than him. He doesn't give you anything. He doesn't take anything.
Oh, I love that.
I love Perry. Always loved him. Always loved him.
Yeah, and Jamie actually wanted to bring him over in the offseason. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's what the Flyers really lack this year. And not necessarily that the guys here can't do that at all. I actually argue that Jake Voracek is pretty good at that, just saying whatever he wants. But like Kimmo Timonen was amazing at that here. We need the guy who can speak to the media. Like Pronger obviously was exceptional at this role. But we need more of those guys. Add 2 or 3 of them. They don't even have to be that talented. You know, they can be like, what I see is like, I want a bottom 6 forward who plays center, who's big and strong and can kill penalties. I want a top end defenseman. And then I want a reasonable backup for Elliott, who is a little bit younger. Maybe a guy who's like 31 rather than 36, right? 32, who can have 2-3 years here. But I'm being pretty modest. Like my thing is like, I really just want a top end defenseman, and I want more physicality in the bottom 6, like real physicality, like even like Nate Thompson with more size. Like give me a guy who plays every shift hard, and I like Pitlick, right? Every shift. Is that kind of what you see?
A guy that I would really love to help Patrick, but I don't know what his price point's going to be, is Bonino
He's old. He's old. He might be cheap.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people. He did really well in Minnesota.
He did.
I'm hoping you could get him for 3.5, something like that. But I don't think you're going to get him for much less than that. But that's the kind of guy I think you're thinking about.
Yeah,
that's
you're right.
the kind of guy I'm looking at.
Yep.
He can do everything. He's just an everything guy. He can put up points. He can even play in your top six if you got injuries. He's done it before. And I think he would be great for Patrick. He's done it everywhere he's been. They have got him specifically because he's good with young players. Minnesota did. Look at Ek last year. Ek had his best year last year.
Yeah.
And Benito, just so happens they picked up Benito from Nashville last year.
Yeah. No, I love that selection. Like guys who really interest me in this offseason, even guys like Alec Martinez, Darren Helm is somebody I'd be interested in for sure.
He'd be cheap.
Yeah, especially because his production has gone down, but he's a really good skater. He plays all three positions. He's been part of a winner at times, right? But I love the Nick Bonino pickup. There's also Matthew Perreault, if he's available. I know,
very good one.
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, the problem is I feel like Winnipeg wants to keep everybody all the time, so they always re-sign everybody.
Because they need people that want to stay in Winnipeg. Yeah. Not many people want to. So,
what do you think about it? Yeah, no, you're not wrong. What do you think about Ryan Dzingel, who, he's had better years, but maybe a guy like that might be available. Again, I think it's kind of like similar to Darren Helm. He plays all positions. He's right-handed. But he might want too much also. This is a guy who also might want like $4 million a year, even though he did.
I don't think he's going to get that much. I think he might get him for two and a half.
That's what I'm saying. If we can spend 2.5, two and a half, like another Scott Lawton with size. That's what I want.
I don't mind it. I mean, he's certainly going to get into the corners for you. That's for sure. He has put up some decent points in the past, depending on what Ottawa. I mean, he's a free agent, and Ottawa hasn't done anything with him.
Yeah. He's a UFA. He was making 3.375 last year. He put up 13 points in 40 games, a -5. So to your point, just under 13 minutes of ice time, so it doesn't really scream raise, right? It screams more maybe even a 1-year modest contract. I
think he's going to get a pay cut for sure. I don't think people are going to be lining up for that kind of production in a flat cap world. So you might be able to get him for a good price. Yeah. I like that. Holla and
and connection to Fletcher.
And connection to Fletcher. I like that. He didn't really, I don't think he put up huge points in Nashville last year, but I liked his game.
Right.
He's a guy that can play all the different positions and all that stuff like that. Yeah, all of those kind of guys.
That's what I think we'll go for.
That's what you might if we're not going to go for the super big like Eichel or whatever the case may be, like the Islanders have shown us, be deep all the way through the lineup, right? I really like that idea. I like that idea.
Cedric Paquette might be available as well. Carolina, obviously, he's not a very big guy, but shown to be a good bottom six forward type of guy. There's a good amount of names where I think that's the type of stuff I would look for the bottom six. Is like veteran, come in, add to this locker room, like what the Flyers kind of lacked. The stability, bring in a veteran D-man, a veteran forward, and a veteran goaltender. And those three names, those three attitudes alone can change your locker room, as we've seen, especially if that defenseman, or, if we can't find a defenseman, maybe it'll be a forward. But I like veterans. I want veterans on this team. Like I'm not like, oh, the guy's 30s over the hill. Like I don't see any of that stuff. I don't really care about it. I don't even think that that's true. I think most of the time, if the guy's a good veteran, he can contribute in multiple ways, especially if they're two-way type of guys. So.
But with that in mind, though, what do we do with guys like what do you see for Morgan Frost next year, or some of our other guys that was it Wade Allison's they got to play Wade next year.
I think Allison 100% is an NHL player. I think he, without injuries, he was already with him. I just want to make sure he can stay healthy. He's had injury problems like every year. Outside of that, I think he has even a future as potential top six forward if he keeps going at the rate that he's going. But definitely middle six NHL forward. He already showed branches of that. He obviously had great chemistry with Farabee. And I think that's awesome to see. But I think he takes Obey Kubel's position away completely. I think he takes his spot in the lineup from everything I've seen, everything I've scouted on him as well prior to that. I do think who's the other guy you mentioned? I'm sorry, it just escaped my mind. Frost. Morgan Frost. I think Frost legitimately will most likely be in the NHL lineup if he's healed properly. He missed a lot of time. But that's the only thing where I'm like, is he going to be NHL ready after all the time missed? Having said that, he's immensely talented. So it does kind of like, I think they'll probably play him on a wing next year. Like, I don't think they'll play him in the middle unless they plan on playing Scott Laughton on the fourth line. And that might be the case.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I'm a little iffy about Morgan Frost right now. He's probably going to be a long burn. But I was wondering what you thought with Allison, but yeah, he takes over O'Bell, which makes sense. And then of course York. That Cam York he's
awesome.
Every time I have a projection for him, the next time I see him play, I'm like, okay, well, he blew that right out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where he is right now. Like, could he play in your top four next year?
Potentially.
I would just say I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Every time I see the guy is way higher he's way higher than I ever projected he would be at this point. Yeah. I didn't think he would be where he is right now at 20 years old.
Yeah. If people have listened to this podcast, they know I've been harping on him for 2 years. I've been telling everybody he's going to make the team out of camp. Look, I still see that to be the case. I still see him being better than NHL players already that we have. But the Flyers have an abundance of defensemen, so it depends on what happens. Like, the Gostisbehere is still here. You know, it's a little tougher. Like, I think that's where the Flyers have room here to shift, because Cam York, I don't think they're going to rush him into the top four position, but they could definitely play him in the bottom pairing. You know, if he needs to play 15 minutes a night, he can already do that today at the NHL level. And he's too good for the AHL. And I don't think many people really expected that, but I kind of did, because if you look at that U.S. development program, nobody expected Farabee to do what he's doing either. Like, nobody expected Cole Caulfield to do what he's doing. Spencer Knight. Again, you look at these players, that crop of players from that team, they're just exceptional. Zegras, you know what I mean? Wallstrom. There's just an endless amount of these guys who are born to be stars at the NHL level. So I see York as another one. You know, obviously you have Quinn Hughes as well, but I think Cam York is a less flashy version, but probably more defensively sound. So it's like, I see York as a guy who makes other defensemen expendable. Not necessarily Sanheim, right? Not necessarily Myers, but again, like, he jumped Zamula, right? If you lose Ghost, you know, you have York can play there. So I think it makes things very interesting. Like, I don't think he has to make the team day one, but the only reason he wouldn't make the team is because of depth and because they can afford to not have him in the lineup. But I think if they were lacking defensive depth, he's an NHL player already. That's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah. That being said, I think, you know, down the road, I think he could push Travis Sanheim quite a bit. I just don't know.
Top pairing in my mind.
I don't know where his top is. I didn't think he was going to be as offensive as he's already showing. So
he has a modest approach to the game, almost. Like, he does the flashy things, but they're like unassumingly. It kind of reminds me like Kimmo Timonen a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you take a Philadelphia player, he would be a lot like that. He's the kind of guy that you'll notice him like on the ice, but you know, it'll never be like
he's not doing spin moves.
But at the end of the game, he'll have 2 points.
Yeah.
You know,
he'll lead the team in assists somehow.
I don't know if you ever heard of or remember Daryl Sador.
Yeah, of course.
Daryl Sador. Like, guys like that, they were so underrated. Never got enough credit for how great they were. He kind of reminds me of a guy like that, but bigger. So, you know, not too shabby.
Yeah, I love the York pickup.
I really like him.
Yeah,
I like him. When they took him the first place, I was like, okay, looks like a good defenseman, but he's gone way above that. I think he's gone way above that. People are going to be surprised.
I think so too, man. I think it's a great way to as a consolation, because I know everybody loves Cole Caulfield. I do too. Don't get me wrong. He's a very exciting player, but I don't think the Flyers passed him up for no reason. I think they legitimately went like, Cam York is our guy. We expect him to be available. We're going Cam York. And he's slightly undersized, kind of, but he plays bigger than his size. And I think he is going to be a great asset for this team. I think his bare minimum is a number 3 in the NHL at this point. So, and I personally think he has a chance of being a legit number one, but it depends how he develops. It's going to take time. He's not going to be a number one immediately. And even a guy like Cale Makar, who I know is being nominated, but I don't think he's one of the best defensemen in the league. I know it's
there's something where we disagree.
I know. Well, I think he has potential to be like the best defenseman in the league type of thing. But is he really the best defensive defenseman in the league? No, I'd rather have Shea Weber over him playing defense.
I guess, right now I'd say defensively he still has some work.
Right. But he's a huge don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from where his potential will be, which is, I'd be crazy to say that he's not a potential true number one defenseman. Right. But you have to earn it.
I think it's going to be a hard time ripping the Norris out of his hands for the next 7 years. Honestly,
he is that talented. Yeah,
he's crazy, but
immensely talented.
I think York is anyways, I love York.
Yeah,
but there was you brought up Caulfield, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that. All of that happened at the draft, and I'm not saying this is what happens. But it is something that happens. There's a lot of times where players will tell their agent, looking at teams' lineups, they'll say, tell them I'd be best if they didn't draft me because I'm not really interested in going there.
Because of all
this happens all the time.
In Philly?
Yeah, wing depth in Philly, where if they went to Montreal, remember Montreal back then?
Yeah, they didn't have the same depth.
It was an open field for him to be a first-line right winger as soon as possible there. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Cole Caulfield said, probably tell the Philly organization I'd rather not go there. Now, if you hear that, do you want to draft the guy?
Yeah.
All right. So happens all the time. Like when Boston didn't take Barzal with 3 picks in a row.
That's insane.
Yeah, but why? Why? Do you think Boston's that dumb? They're not dumb. But you look at their lineup, they had Krejci, they had Bergeron, where's he fit in for the next couple of years as soon as Barzal's been a number one in the island for how long now? I think his agent, him or his agent called him and said, look, we don't want to go there. You might as well not trade. In fact, we'll even go as far as to say we will want to trade almost as soon as you draft us. So there's no use drafting us.
Or at least we won't want to re-sign with you. Or if you're a college free agent, right, which maybe a guy like Cole Caulfield could have been like, hey, I'm just going to finish out college and then I'm going to go for test free agency, right? Like Jimmy Vesey did, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up some of those points. So sometimes organizations look a lot worse than if you were in the same shoes, you probably go like, okay, we're not going through all of that.
So I think that's interesting as well. I think it's very interesting. So you could have a point there. All right, let's we're pretty deep into this podcast. So let's go into the playoff predictions. You brought up Cole Caulfield, so let's start off with that series. Canadians, and I believe they are playing right now as we're talking. So let me make sure I pull up some of the results here. So obviously there's a big game tonight as we record. We have 2 playoff series where right now things are pretty locked in. And am I making a mistake here? Vegas is up 3-2, right? Or am I messing that up in my head in the series?
Oh, yeah, they're up 3-2.
They're up 3-2, right? Yeah. And we're at game 6 right now. It's going on as we speak. How do you feel about that series? What do you think will be the finality of that series?
I've actually have a lot of respect for this Montreal team.
As you should. Agreed.
No doubt about it. But I think that just Vegas, and I was saying this from the beginning, I think Vegas just has more legs in the long run to be able to. Montreal's gone through a brutal season. That's another thing. They were in the North, the travel that they've had to go through and everything. What they're doing right now is almost on the side of miraculous. It's incredible. And in this game, it appears they're up 1-0.
Yeah. I think we're wrong about the series, though. Are we wrong about the series? I'm seeing 2-2.
Is it 2-2?
It's 2-2. Okay. See, I had a feeling.
Sorry, this is game 5. So, this is game 5. Yep. I think Vegas will take it, but I'm not going to if Montreal takes it, I'm not going to be surprised anymore. I'm just not. I'm not going to be surprised by this team anymore. And I don't know why I would ever have been surprised about a team with Corey Perry on it. He did it in Dallas. I mean, last year he did it in Dallas. I mean, he won cups in Imagine Corey Perry and Chris Pronger on the same team.
I mean, wasn't that the thing? Didn't they play on the same team? Yeah.
Anaheim.
Yeah, I was gonna say Anaheim. That was a great team, too. That was, oh my God, Niedermeyer, Getzlaff. Oh my God, they won a championship for a reason.
Was there? I don't know. You could make a case that there maybe was never a better pairing than Niedermeyer Pronger.
I honestly would agree with that. I mean, you're talking about two franchise caliber defensemen playing on the same pairing.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody the Detroit Red Wings. Who did Nicholas Lidstrom play with? Did he play with?
Did he play with Chelios for a bit? I imagine he would have. That's got to be there.
Yeah, that's up there. But even then, I might even still get. And I see Lidstrom as maybe the best defenseman of all time. But I mean, I don't think Niedermeyer and Pronger are very far behind.
I think if Pronger could have played longer. Different era. It's hard. I don't like making those comparisons. I just like to say Pronger and Lidstrom are
incredible.
Incredible players.
Yeah, just peak performance type of guys.
I saw Pronger play in Edmonton for the playoffs when we made it to the finals. He was a one-man defense. That was it.
I mean, you saw what happened to Philly. We were one of the best teams in the league. Pronger was done, and the Flyers, just immediate like that. That is an effect that an emotional leader that can do it on the ice and in your locker room can have on you. And that's why the Flyers went all out for a guy like Shea Weber back in the day. It wasn't just his talent, right? And even that trade that Montreal made for Subban, or trading Subban for Weber, like, in my opinion, I said as day one, I was like, Montreal easily won that trade. And I don't dislike PK Subban, but I was like, Shea Weber is a franchise caliber guy. I never thought that Subban was. He was just like a high-end energy type of like offensive defenseman. And, when you see a guy like Weber, you see what he's doing today. It's like he can carry a team emotionally. Like you said, Corey Perry, maybe his skill level is not there, but that ability to carry a locker room is there. And you need more than one guy. Again, they still have Eric Stahl. They have other guys who are doing it, but it makes a difference.
Habs or Vegas for you? I still think Vegas is going to pull it out.
I definitely think Vegas. I think if they didn't, unfortunate for Fleury, they made that mistake. I do just think they're the better team, and I think right now I think it's going to go to 7. Initially, I thought maybe I'll go for 6, but I do still expect Vegas to win it out. Like you said, I think they just overall they have the edge in talent, and whatever Vegas or whatever Montreal can throw at them, they can throw right back at them. And I think like even they're down 1-0 right now. Like I expect Vegas to take over that game as things go on. Like Montreal usually starts off hot, and then Vegas takes over the game. And Montreal's kind of gotten by on starting hot, but Vegas will not quit on you. Even the some of the leads they had, they essentially like almost blew those leads to Vegas, as the game went on.
Yep. Vegas is one of the best third period teams. I think that they are the best third period team.
Yeah. So it's noticeable.
Yeah.
Eye test. Sure. All right. So let's talk about the other series. And this one coming off a huge blowout loss, which probably the worst the Islanders have lost all year. They lose 8-0, and there was an insane amount of odd man rushes. Whatever happened, if the Monstars came in there from Space Jam, took their talent for a game, I don't know. I don't know if it'll show in the next game. We saw that with Vegas and Colorado. The goals you score for one game, they don't necessarily reflect for the next one. But that was a pretty brutal loss, and now a 3-2 lead in the series for Tampa Bay, who is my Cup favorite, unfortunately, again, but they just have no weaknesses, not on paper and not on the ice. So I do see Tampa Bay, maybe closing it out in 6, but definitely closing it out in 7. And I do see them winning the Stanley Cup against no matter who they're playing, even though I do think Vegas will give them definitely a good run for their money. Could be wrong there, but I just think they don't have any holes. What do you think?
I think Tampa Bay. I took Tampa Bay to beat the Islanders as well. Yeah. I'm not really a fan of it. It's not really their fault. I'm just really uncomfortable with the whole thing that happened with being over the cap and all of those sort of things like that. But I also want to say something too, and I've been talking about it a lot. A lot of people are not giving Cooper enough credit. Cooper is an excellent coach, right up there with the greats. It's just he has a great team. A lot of people didn't give Q enough credit until he went to Florida, and now everybody sees, because he had a great team in Chicago. And it's understandable when you got a great team and you got Taves. It makes it a lot easier to be a coach when you got guys like Taves and guys like that. But he's fantastic. And they made adjustments. And I think Trotz really kind of didn't see it coming. I think there were some things that some adjustments they made. They are a first pass out of the zone team, maybe one of the best. They're one of the best ever first pass out of the zone teams. And the Island, best defenseman in the league, yeah, of course. Yeah. Sergachev on your bottom pairing.
It's insane. Their depth is ridiculous. I mean, having Ryan McDonough as your number 2. I mean. We're talking about
Chernak's hurt, and then they beat the Islanders 8-0 without Chernak in the lineup. So
there's so much talent there.
It's pretty cray. I think they'll win this one. I do have Vegas to win. I probably more heart than head. I just think it's so hard to go back to back, but that team is
so hard.
But the thing is Point, man. Point, Point is playing just so unbelievably slick right now. My gosh,
he's such a
it's unbelievable.
And he's he's a very emotionally stable guy. Like, he doesn't get rattled. He's consistent from game to game. He plays center. Yeah. Like, the guy does everything you want. He's proving to be one of the best centers in the NHL. Like,
he's not a big guy, and you never say that his size matters ever. No. He never looks like he's out muscled anywhere on the ice because he's so incredibly smart. His hockey IQ is off the charts. Man.
Yeah.
Incredible guy.
That was the luxury the Flyers had with Mike Richards, where he wasn't. I would say Point is more talented than Mike Richards, like I said, with the puck on his stick and whatnot. But Richards, he would play more talented players. He would just win those battles. You know what I mean? Emotionally, physically, he'd find a way to get the puck through. And Point has that plus the extra talent. Like, I think he has another talent level
on top
too.
Of it,
yeah. So just really, I mean, they have. That's what I'm saying. They have it all.
I'm taking Vegas in the final. My lean on it is that, again, Tampa has this is a back-to-back. They played a crap load of hockey.
Yeah.
I just think the heart of Stone and those guys, they just are a find-a-way team. But we'll see. If Tampa wins, I won't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I would agree. I would be very surprised if Montreal wins the Stanley Cup. I will say that.
I'll be blown away.
Yeah.
And actually happy at the same time. I mean, you got to love teams like that. You just got to love them.
You got to love parity. And what I like about it is that it should wake people up to be like, hey, you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive player in the offseason to be a good team. Because a lot of people kind of jump all over that. Like, as soon as, like, there's a reason I don't think the Flyers want to talk to Dougie Hamilton, and I don't think it's because they don't like him. I think it's because, like, hey, we're not really interested in a bidding war for you. Like, I don't want to give you 8 years for $8 million. Like, I don't see you as that guy. So I don't want to go out and just to make my team happy. Like, we're even watching that with Kevin Hayes, who I think is a good player. Don't get me wrong. But, you look at $7 million a year for Kevin Hayes over the next several years. You're like, I'd rather pay him $5.5 million.
We'll see. I think when he comes back from his injuries, first year, he surprised me. I have to admit. I thought
he was very good.
I thought $7 million was steep right off the top, but he was like a poor man's O'Reilly the first year.
Yeah.
So,
and it's acceptable. If you can play defensively and carry the team that way physically, which he did a really good job playing the middle that way, it compensates for that. But, you just talk about cap management, right? It's not really like, I don't want to get rid of Kevin Hayes in any sense. And I think he will get back to what he was. I think that is the player he is. I think abdominal core injury is an issue, but it's going to slow him down in the beginning of the year too. Like, he's not going to come in 100%. Most players who deal with that problem are just, they don't.
I wouldn't want to feel what that problem feels like. Whatever he's got, that core.
Like, probably feels like rats are eating the inside of your body while you're trying to move.
That would be absolutely insane. I've had some pretty terrible injuries. I didn't have that one in particular, but from what I've read about it, it sounds like a lot of not fun for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But the contract was a little steep. As far as Hamilton is concerned, I like what you said. His on ice is great, but I mean, Boston traded him for a reason. They traded him, and Calgary traded him for a reason. It wasn't because of his on ice.
Yeah.
He's a different dude, and he seems to grate on some of his teammates. I don't know what the difference is. I've never talked to him, of course. I mean, I'm sure he watches my show all the time, right?
I feel Well, I feel like maybe a place like Winnipeg, who, you know, lost a lot of defensemen, like maybe that's the right type of place for him, where it's like it's quieter. You know what I mean? He's not in the limelight. I think that's why it works in Carolina even, is that he doesn't want to be in the limelight. I think it's part of it. He wants to like just come in, do his job, and you know, I think it's
I'm not so sure about that, actually. I think he got traded into those places, but I have a feeling that the place he wants to go to is LA. I think LA might just be able to take that quirky attitude and do, because he can kind of get lost in LA.
Yeah.
He can get lost in LA, right? Like LA is big, but not everybody knows the players for their hockey teams and stuff like that. So he can have all the fun life and all of that, but it's not so much. And then you can kind of get lost out there, and then you just show up and play your game.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do with it. That's what you got to do. What I think they got to do with Dougie Hamilton, or find a place for them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, just show up and play. We're not going to bother you.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. They have 3 hockey teams in California, right? Vander Kane went to San Jose. He was able to fit in that locker room a lot easier, right?
Seems to, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. And even Mike Richards, I mean, God bless him, right? Like, not that I think he actually was a problem. I think he had some problems of his own, but I don't necessarily think his personality was a huge problem. But again, in California, like, they don't care. Like, they have so many celebrities and people on top of the world on the news that you can literally, I love what you said there, actually. You can literally go under the radar.
Yeah, I think maybe that LA is sort of a philosophy and a team philosophy where you can sort of do that. You can just show up to the rink and play. And there's different teams that are not so much. There's much more chatter. There's much more after the game stuff that goes on, and people like that and all that stuff like that. But I think he might be able to get away with it there. So.
All right. Well said. All right. Well, we're way over time. And like I said, it usually takes 20, 30 minutes to get a conversation going. We're only about an hour and a half. So we went way over time.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Sorry, Steve. This is typically what happens when you talk to me. I'll squeeze more out of you. But let people know where to follow you. Give them some updates on what you're doing. Where they can check you out on social media, or any work you have that's coming out.
Well, my show, NHL Pearl of Wisdom show, is 3 to 5 days a week on the channel, My NHL Pearls of Wisdom. Check it out. It's fun. It's interactive. We do a lot of what we're doing right now. You can come on and tell me what you think. We see what free agent's going to go where, all of that kind of stuff.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun like that. And the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, of course. It's a great website. Go check it out. You can find all my work there. And Pearlo's NHL POW on Twitter if you want to find me there. You can find that at the Steel Flyers All Sports Network as well.
Awesome.
Thank you for bringing me on here. I can't believe we went an hour and a half. Dude.
I did that to Steve Cornianos last week, and we were like, he's like, I got to stop hard at 60 minutes, and then I brought it up, and he's like, I just keep it rolling. And then I got him coming on next week actually again, because when you get into good hockey talk, it's hard to stop. You know what I mean?
You have me on anytime, man. I love chatting hockey, and I love chatting hockey.
I will definitely have you back on. I thought this was a great episode, actually. I hope people can make it through the full 90 minutes, because I think there's a lot of good info in this. And I actually love your approach. From everything I heard, we actually align pretty well on a lot of stuff we're saying. I don't think nobody agrees 100%, but I think what I really like is you have a measured approach to what you're saying, right? You're not too far in any one direction. It's really the way you have to be with this. You have to be I want this guy, but I'm also not crazy, and I'm not going to trade everything I have towards him too, right? I have to be reasonable, and I have to build slowly, a little more conservative than most fan bases probably want to hear. All right. So one more shout out though before I close up. This is to my buddy Greg, who sent this to me today. This is an old birthday present, but I really love this. This is just a great gift from him. And my birthday was last month. Today's actually my mother's birthday, so it's funny I got this today. But I just loved it. You are the Gritty's titties. and just not appropriate, but definitely appropriate. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, super excited about that. So thank you, Greg. Really appreciate that. He might listen to this episode, so I want to give him a little shout out there. All right. Everybody like, subscribe, follow Steve Pearlo. Make sure you follow him online. He obviously has great opinions. Definitely check out their site. Like and subscribe ours. Share this out if you can. It helps quite a bit. Leave some comments as well. I do read the comments. I've been extremely busy with my other podcast. I'm doing Play On Gamers, which is a video game podcast. Rubbing Elbows with my sister, which is now about networking and aligning with all people in the industries. I have some crazy, awesome guests coming for that as well that she is finding. So, and then Always Level Up. I have Jim Jackson, which is already recorded. Just got to get a couple more marketing stuff done for that, and that'll be out as well. His stories are really awesome, Steve. You should definitely check that one out. That's more of a personal show for him, but just to find out more about him is so cool. I respect that man so much. So yeah, definitely check out the podcast. Check out everything. And again, thank you everybody for listening. It was super amazing to have everybody's ear. And remember to always stay gritty.